well. Hope everyone is enjoying their weekend, enjoying their day. I know it's been a while since I've been on RBC. I know it's been a little bit, um, kind of just taking a break from RBC and just doing my other channels. But from time to time, I do want to pop on. It's first live for Rabbinic Community Trust. And for those who are new, welcome to RBC. Talk about different political issues and things that affects everyone. And for those in the African American community, and for those who've been tuning in and those who've been listening, thank you as always. Hope that this content finds you blessed, finds you well. And I just want to hop on here real quick on the live to just say some comments about Supreme Court decision on affirmative action and just kind of shed some light on some stuff and changes. So for those who would like to tune in, please feel free to do so. And I'm just going to jump into it. So we all know what happened this past Thursday. Supreme Court went ahead and struck down the affirmative action that held standard for college admissions for African Americans and just minorities in general. And it causes everyone to have the opportunity, and it was due to I'm just in a paraphrasing a little bit about there was some Asian students try to apply to Harvard, and there was a case that was forthgoing, and they reviewed that case, and that was the predecessor of leading into it being no longer an issue to go to school with college admissions. And it's interesting because when you think about schools, right, high schools, I can speak for me personally. One of the things in high schools, are African American high schools, majority African American that's attend there. One of the things that they told us is to go to college. To go to college and to pick the school, do well in school so you can go to to the best school possible. And a lot of times, at least for me, from my experience, a lot of people that went to college, those from my graduating class in high school, it was a lot of band members who went to HBCUs, which is not a bad thing. It was a great experience. HBCUs gives us African Americans a different opportunity to go and learn, and there's some great HBCUs out there. But also, people that were highly on the academic scale, high SAT scores, ACT scores, they have the chance to go and maybe some that will participate and go to bigger Ivy League schools. But truthfully be told, at least from my graduating class, a lot of us that graduated didn't go to those type of schools. A lot of them went to HBCUs. Clark Atlanta, I went to Bethune-Cookman. People went to Jackson State, Southern University, FAMU, Howard, Hampton, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman. These are people that went to these schools, and again, these are great schools, all great schools, right? But you don't see a lot of African American communities, and not saying all, but at least from what I've seen, they don't go to Harvard, they don't go to Yale, UCLA, Johns Hopkins, Stetson. University of Florida, University of Miami, whatever, big schools. So, not saying again that no African Americans go there. I'm sure there's other schools that students go and they do well, and they get accepted to these programs. So with some of the commentary that I was reading in his Facebook posts, social media posts, articles, a lot of people really crucified the Supreme Court, and it's interesting because a lot of there's two African American Supreme Court justices, and Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Jackson, and they criticized them, but more so her because of her position. A lot of people saying that she was selected due to her affirmative action was reason why she's been put on there. Biden put her on for her to be, selected Supreme Court justice. And a lot of people had a lot of issues towards the black justices for, obviously voting for the affirmative action to be struck down. A lot of controversy, a lot of issues and just comments. And some people say it benefits certain race groups, in reference, or gender groups. Like, for example, a lot of people say white women benefit this more, right? Um, whether it's true or false, I mean, for me, it is what it is. I'm sure other people benefited from the action, especially when it came to college admissions at the time. We're dealing with schools, jobs, union representation, many other programs that affirmative action has dealt with. So now, the question is, when it comes to this, now that's been struck down for mission of college, what other programs that affirmative action is going to be struck down in? Is it going to be for job union reps that I just listed? Is it going to be certain programs? If African Americans, men or women, apply for these programs, or they get discriminated against, what is going to be protected in reference to them allowed to go to these programs? Now, when we go to the schools, if a black student applied for Yale or Harvard or Ivy League schools, will it be more difficult for them to get into these schools now because affirmative action has now been pulled back from schools? Would it be strictly based off what's on paper, their scores, their grade, cumulative grade point average? Is it based off of interviews and recommendation letters? How would this affect people getting into these schools now for race, if there's no quote unquote protection for minorities to get into these schools? I think for me, like I just mentioned earlier, it's all about start from high school. I believe that college, it was a dream shoved down our throats, especially for, when you're in all African American schools, because of the school system in itself. It wasn't preparing African American students, for the most part, on major, critical, groundbreaking majors and skills. You obviously learn math, you learn your reading, English, science, you have other programs that try to prepare you. But, knowing the type of neighborhoods we grew up in, knowing the type of households and situations that we're in, for the most part, you might rarely find one or two students that may have the high grade point average. And that doesn't excuse the intellect of black students and many minority students, because I did okay, I did pretty good in school. Um, Also understanding the extracurricular activity aspect. You play football, you're in band, you have some type of athletic scholarship, or you just in some type of club. These things also make it favorable. Now we're trying to increase more science, technology, engineering, and math STEM programs for schools and really set them up for success, so that if a student wants to go to these schools, they have the opportunity, they have they're prepared, they're groomed into going to these type of schools. Also, for black communities, I hope, with this now being abolished or repealed or outlawed, or whatever case you want to put it, that these schools are now hopefully have the appetite or the bandwidth now to hopefully appeal to everyone, and allow, so, because these schools don't really reach out to certain schools. You know how schools recruit, or they go to these schools and show off fairs, and they get involved in the communities around them. So with Harvard and these types of schools, are they going to appeal to more schools that, that where's majority minority? That's what we hope, that, right? If a student wants to apply there and they have the skills, they have the education in reference to the GPA and the scores from test scores, or they have recommendation letters, or they've been selected or endorsed, excuse me, flies on outside, by these programs, then they'll be able to, they can go through the admission process and be accepted. So it's just these things, can affect everyone. It can affect, other programs, because now they already outlawed this in schools. Now what's next? Now they're going to look at other programs. It always happens that way, right? They look at one program, and then they say, okay, I'm going to ban this, and then now I'm going to look at how this affects other programs. Now it could affect jobs. Certain minorities disqualified because you're a race. You don't have the intellect, you don't have the skills, you don't have this and that. People are saying now that it's not about your race anymore, it's about the skills. Is racism still a role into the schools admission process, job process? Is it truly about your talent and your ability and your resume and your skills and your education that you're actually looking at this. So, we just have to see how it plays out. How would this fit for many people to want to participate in schools now? We all know that certain demographics, they have a better, uh, they're in position to be able to go to these types of schools, you know. But if for minorities as a whole, man, just blacks, Hispanics, Asians, many minorities, you know, in that realm, are the schools preparing them? Are families putting their kids in good schools? Doing the research and saying this school is good, this school is not good. What programs do these high schools, middle schools, even elementary schools offer to prepare the children from elementary all the way to high school to set them up for success? To be able to have the bandwidth to say, okay, I can pass, do really well on my SAT, ACT. I can do really well on my comprehensive exams. I can do really well in my classes. I can, and then doing the extracurricular activities just make me more well-rounded, and being able to go out and make myself marketable to be able to apply to a certain school. If I'm in certain type of clubs, or I'm in certain type of organizations that are reputable, to go out and I can be recognized at this particular institution that I'm going to. These things I think that will help with making students more prepared so they can be marketable and come, I guess the word I'm looking for, be able to compete, if that's a word, and being able to be listed for the next admissions, or being able to be accepted to school. And then when you're being able to move forward and get accepted to these schools, now once you pass the acceptance process and admissions process, now you're going to be in the school itself. Then, okay, how would I be able to adjust, adapt, and then make it through my tenure of college? So it's not just getting through the acceptance process, but it's also being able to stay planted and be able to continue to do well in these schools as I go, or I go through the acceptance process, admissions process, and then, all right, then I'm like, okay, I'm there, and then now I drop out in 2 years, or I drop out in a year because it's too much, it's too hard, or I didn't expect this to be the way that it is. I didn't expect it to be so intensive. That's just for any nursing schools, that's for any technical schools. Excuse me for any background noise if you hear kids playing. I'm getting them outside. You get to these points and then you drop out because you can't finish. You can't hold on to what you've been given. So it's so much into it. For affirmative action, I knew it came out. I know it was in the 90s and the 80s they were talking about it. People getting, disadvantaged minorities, they're getting the boot, and it was these programs were started by certain individuals in Congress, or they've been put in place, and then the Supreme Court, they review and they do the precedent. Excuse me for my word, I'm a little tongue a little loose today. The precedent of these cases, and then they all of a sudden it's something political move. When it comes to times changing, you got different people that's on the Supreme Court. They people pass on and they retire or they die and whatnot, and you get times where you got to move with the times. So you got all these different movements that impact sexism, racism, dealing with many different types of movements, many different types of people today, and now things are being looked at and then being challenged to be made to fit the mold of the people that they affect. Okay, so these things are going to keep turning, and we got to be prepared to adjust and adapt if we're to do so. Now, with that being said, will college rates continue to decrease or increase? Right? If this is affecting minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans, whatever the case may be, whatever minority group you fall in, if that's even a minority group, will people now start shying away from college and 4-year institutions? or start going to more tech schools, more schools where it doesn't require all that. You know, I can go and settle working at a tech school or CDL, or I can go work this dude, open my business, be an entrepreneur. What is that going to change? It's 4-year school, especially when it comes to the business model, when it comes to the um, admission process. Now you got to deal with the financial process. You got to look at the placement. You got to look at the reputation of the school, if they're accredited or not. And when you get done with all of that, what happens with the job placement? You know, you could do this 4-year process, and you get out, and now you got your degree, and then now you're either trying to go back to school. You might have student loans, which is a big fight in itself in this country right now. Of course, you know what they did with the student loan. They also struck down the student loan forgiveness program that President Biden was trying to put together. So now that's going to affect people as well. So you get out, you go through all this process of school, and then you get out and you can't find a job, or your job placement is very low, or you got to start at the bottom because of inflation and hyperinflation and stagnation. You got to deal with all these economic issues. You might get a job that doesn't pay very well, and you got to climb up the ladder. And then you still got student loans trying to come after you. You still got all these things coming after you. So you got to look at all that. So now are people going to try to switch and say, you know what, forget college, and I'm going to go ahead and get a certification. I'm going to go ahead and get a certification and start my own business. It costs less. I can probably risk making my own business and making more money, and I don't have to work for no one, versus going to college and then worrying about debt. If I don't have certain, if I had somebody paying my way through college, or I'm not in the military and I get a GI Bill, or some of the people that do that goes that route, or I don't have, I have other ways, scholarships to be given to me to go to school. All these things play a role into whether should I do college, or I should stay and go tech school, or start my own business, or just not even deal with that educational realm at all, or just go to the military. Go to the military and serve my country, do every time I want to do, and then I know I guarantee benefits such as the GI Bill post 9/11, and I can go and pay my way through school and let the military pay my way through school. So there's many avenues today. So with college rates drop, because of now you not only it's expensive, you got to compete for the finances, you got to compete. Now you got to compete to even get in, because of again, as a minority, this was put in place to help me be competitive. Get my words right again. To go and apply for these schools and get in. Is it a bad thing to make it competitive based off race? Because if I'm given a ticket to get in and I suck and I fail, and I only do 2 years and get kicked out of school because my GPA is so low, and I'm not even prepared, what's the point of me getting accepted and I'm not prepared to go through these type of schools? I'm not mentally, emotionally, financially, physically. I'm not even I haven't been prepared and molded in my previous years of school to even sit and do the work and keep up with the intense curriculum that's been given in these types of schools, and I still flunk out. Is it a bad thing to really toughen up on the schools, the high schools I'm speaking of? So if you want to actually shot to get in as a minority, to say, you know what, let me toughen up and get right in my high school years. Let me really get disciplined and focused and get my skills and my GPA and my test scores up, and really be disciplined in my work to even prepare myself to be marketable for the school. It's versus just saying, oh, I didn't get in because of the color of my skin. Not because of I have a low test score, but because of the color of my skin. And then I'm upset because I didn't get accepted to the school. Or play devil's advocate. I am at where I need to be, and I have the skills, and I have the GPA and the test scores, but I'm still discriminated against because the school model or the perception doesn't fit the mold of that particular institution, and the chances are of you filling out is high because of my race. So therefore, I'm not taking you in my school. Go to another school. Go to a school that will accept you, and then you make and reapply, or maybe you can finish that and come here. You know what I'm saying? So look at the odds, look at all the different things that we're dealing with this. Again, I foresee that they may look into other types of things dealing with affirmative action. It may be something that it just may just be struck down across the board. More things come out and more, more cases and stuff that need to be challenged. They may just scratch affirmative action altogether. What does that do for minorities? It just makes things tougher in some aspects, but also makes us get in position to do our best to be better. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because everything's unfair. It's not fair because of this, this, and this. We may not have the tools and the resources in our neighborhoods and our schools and even in our families to prepare us for these types of things. But is it a time where we can now be based off merit and skill? Is it a time where if we have what it takes and we do the work and we're in position, can we get selected? I mean, look at it. You got 2 Supreme Court justices that are black. Something that probably would never, ever happened years ago. You got women that's inside the Supreme Court justice. Might not have been a time when there may be a thing. So is it really the race now, or is it merit and skill? Or is it just a hookup? Or is it a political ploy to put people in certain positions so they can look good for their motives and their reasons? So that's what people are saying about Justice Jackson. So what are your thoughts about affirmative action? The decision made by the Supreme Court. What do you think about it? I know a lot of people are talking about it now. It's a buzz. I would just say be very mindful of all the changes that are starting and are going to continue to come in many different demographic areas, especially in economics and finance. There's going to be major changes. One started today, as a matter of fact, or let's give it some credit, maybe start after the 4th of July weekend or holiday. A lot of changes. A lot of changes in institutional politics and government. A lot of changes when it comes to how things are being done worldwide and global. I said this in my last video that I did months ago. I don't know when. It's been a long time. I'm saying it again. There's a lot of changes coming. If you're not ready and you're taking your time and you're thinking it's a game, heads in the sand, you might want to take your head out. Especially from our minorities, especially in this particular case, affirmative action and other programs, changes all across the board. You're really going to have to step your game up. You're really going to have to bind together. You're really going to have to educate yourself. You're really going to have to do the research. The word I'm looking for. The day-to-day drama of life is going to, if you're not being able to move past certain things in your day-to-day life and really sit back and make some decisions that affect you and your family, and you continue to stay in the crab in the bucket mentality, you stay in this, I'm just going to do me and stay in my own little world. I'm going to continue to act the way I used to act 20, 30 years ago. You're going to be a casualty of what's coming. You got to be smart about everything today. And that's all I'm going to say about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm changing my tune on how I put the stuff out now because people are going to take what they want to take. I hope what is said is taken, or at least pondered upon, and that you'll be able to, think about it and say, this may make sense. And you don't have to agree with everything I say. You may have a different opinion. That's why I hope that this opens up a forum to where people can comment and say, certain things that may, may help. They may not help. They may disagree and may agree. We all got our own opinions. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's, family structure is different. You know what I'm saying? Some be worse, some not worse. So, we got to just think about it and put it together and see how it plays in your life. Good or bad or indifferent. So, again, that's all I have. Leave your thoughts, your comments. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. More challenges, more outlaws, changes. Presidential election is going to change a lot as well. Who we vote in office, that not just the president, but the Supreme Court, not even just them, your local Congress, your state, your penal colonies, your local governments, your House of Representatives, your Senate, all important critical parts need to be evaluated, and you need to vote who's the best person. And sometimes it may not be a thing. They just change something about the voting, and some of that as well. So look up on laws on that. They just changed some stuff for voting in some state governments. Mississippi, I think Alabama, Mississippi, they made some, I think it's Mississippi, matter of fact, they made some changes about voting there that may be beneficial for minorities. It may not. Do your research, learn your laws, learn what's going on, learn the changes, because it will affect you. What government does, institutes, going to affect you, and it's going to affect people in a really big way very soon. Very, very soon, it's going to affect people, and it's going to be some major changes in some of our lives. So, comments, feedback, share, and subscribe to RBC. I may get back on here and start doing a couple more videos, depending on how I feel like moving with some of this stuff. If it's something you want me to talk about, or you want me to teach on, or just get opinions about, leave in the comments. I will gladly entertain and start putting stuff out. Until then, if not, then I'm going to just go as I feel, and if things are that are hot topics or just things that come out, I will just put my commentary on it, and talk about it a little bit. Hopefully stimulate thought. Hope you guys enjoy the 4th of July weekend. Food, festivities, family, 3 F's, right? And I hope that you guys are being blessed. Check out my other channels, Freedom Fighters channel. It's on that's my gospel channel. Spread the word of Jesus Christ. Breaking Barrier Ministries is my marital channel. I'm doing relationships and marriage, godly marriage with my wife. Also check out her channel, Precious Pearl Ministries. I know she will come out with some new content soon. On her other pages, she got some new stuff coming out. We're going to be putting stuff out as we can. So please just stay in tuned, share, subscribe, hit the like button on the live, comment if you like. Ask to be respectful, but even if you got some hard things to say, go for it. Not gonna take them personal, because at the end of the day, it's more to come. And I know people gonna be it's gonna be a lot of emotions when it comes to this type of stuff. So just leave your feedback, and we keep moving. All right. Hope you guys are blessed. Have a great day.